Hey everyone, Christopher Rocchio here, author of the Sun Eaters science fantasy series, an 8-year veteran of the publishing industry, back with a video that I think really needed to be made. It is a sequel, kind of a reboot, frankly, to a video that I made a couple of years ago now, and that is addressing the question that I am asked the most, perhaps, of all questions that I am asked. Probably more than every other question put together, to be honest with you. And that is, Christopher, where are the hardcover versions of your books? Why are they so darned expensive? And the answer to that question, ladies and gentlemen, is they are out of print. Empire of Silence has been out of print in hardcover since basically 2019. I think the last time I saw one on shelves was in a Barnes & Noble in, I think, Oregon, in 2019 when I was on tour with DJ Butler and Chris Husberg. I have not seen one in the wild since, and their sales basically went down, to zero back in 2019. I just checked the old charts earlier because they'd all sold out basically or been returned to the warehouse. And so the only way to get those books is used. And to further compound the issue, Howling Dark and Demon in White both have also sold out in the hardcover. So you cannot find hardcover copies of the first 3 Sun Eater books. You can find Kingdoms of Death, and you can find Ashes of Man, of course, because those both just came out last year. So if you are inclined to get those two, I would strongly encourage you to pick up books 4 and 5 now if you want those first editions. It will be difficult to find those first 3. I'm not going to lie to you. Even I do not have copies of the first 3 books to spare anymore. They are that difficult to find, and I know book 1 in particular is becoming quite expensive if you are trying to track a copy down on eBay. And at first, I guess I just want to say that I'm sorry for this situation. I am a collector myself. I do most of my reading in audio, but when I want the physical object of a book manifest in my house, I buy hardcover wherever possible. I buy a leather bound if I can. I'm a big Easton Press fan, for example. And so I am right there with you. I totally understand the frustration and the difficulty, too, of getting a set that matches, which has been compounded recently by the news that I delivered, I think, 2 days ago now, that Daw Books have canceled the mass market paperback editions of Kingdoms of Death and Ashes of Man in favor of doing trade paperbacks. This will be good news for a lot of you. There are folks who would prefer hardcover but will settle for trade paperback. But I understand that there are some folks, and probably a minority, who are still big mass market fans and would prefer, to collect the books in that format, or at least would prefer to not have to buy books 1 through 3 again to get a matching set. Daw has, for the record, told me that the plan is to transition books 1, 2, and 3 into trade paperback as they go out of print here in their last mass market print run. So it will be possible in the next probably year or so to get a matching set of the books all in trade paperback. So this is at least good news. In an absolute sense, for people who want a matching set, it will be possible to get the trade paperbacks. Now, with regard to books 6 and 7 and their acquisition by Baen, I do not know what type of paperback they are envisioning for the second format of the series, whether that's going to be trade or mass market. We have not talked about that in detail yet, and that's sort of a 2025 problem, to be honest with you. What I can say in the meantime is the books will be coming out in hardcover, like I said in my announcement video, so it will be possible for those folks who've been collecting the hardcovers to get an almost matching set of first edition hardcovers of the series. Of course, the publisher logo will be changing. But to everybody who's continued to ask the question, I will just say again, the goal is to use the same fonts, the same jacket design style, the same artist, the same everything for books 6 and 7. So they will look very, very, very similar. Everybody should be happy. I know exactly which fonts were used everywhere in the book, all right, and everything's going to be fine. I promise. Now, for those of you who live across the sea in merry old England, this problem is not really any different. Golangs, who were my original UK publisher, because I've already changed publishers over there, they only did a hardcover for the first book in the series. They only did Empire of Silence. The hardcovers for Howling Dark and Demon in White in the UK edition that exist number about 300 copies apiece. They were only produced for Ann Derrida Books, who has been producing collector's edition, numbered editions, signed for all of my books, because that's sort of what they specialize in. They specialize in these signed, numbered, limited runs. That's what they do. That's what they sell. And so they got Golanx to print hardcovers for them. But those are the only hardcovers of 2 and 3 that exist. And the rights to books 1, 2, and 3 in the UK are still held by Golanx. And they are basically only maintaining the UK mass markets, which are a little bit of a different size than US ones. Are a little bit bigger, a little bit flatter. But that's all that you can get, the first 3 books in. The second UK publisher, Head of Zeus, does much smaller print runs. They're a little bit more dynamic, let's say. They have hardcovers and I think trade paperbacks and mass markets for books 4 and 5. I think you can get all 3 formats of those books. So those are a little bit more dynamic, and they will be reprinting those sort of on an as-needed basis, is my understanding. They've got a little bit of a different business model than Golanx does. Golanx is a little bit more old school. Head of Zeus is, like I say, more dynamic. It's a little bit of a more, let's say, cutting edge company in a sense. They're not quite print on demand, but they're closer to that model, I think, than they are to the sort of hyper traditional, big batch printing that Golanx does. So it's hard to find the books in the UK editions as well for these reasons. So I hope that clears some of the difficulty up. Now you're asking yourself, why don't they just reprint them anyway? And the short answer to that question is cost. Again, one of the things that I think is perhaps lost or not known by readers generally is that publishers need to print books in large batches. They need to print them in batches of several thousand. Usually, I think it was 5,000 hardcovers of Empire of Silence that were produced. And that's because by printing in large batches, you bring the cost of the printing down, right? And that means the unit cost per book goes down, which means your profit margin per unit goes up. And so, there is less reason to print 1,000 hardcovers because it makes your profit margin per hardcover lower. You make less money, and you spend you end up spending more, right? Because it is more expensive book for book to print 1,000 than it is a book for book to print 5. And so they're looking at my numbers and they're saying Christopher is selling pretty well, but he's not Brandon Sanderson, basically, right? Brandon Sanderson, Patrick Rothfuss, George Martin, these are writers that you're going to find their books in 700 different formats. They're going to have TV tie-in editions in George's case, right? They're going to be new covers. This is the same with like The Witcher, right? These are books that are always in the science fiction and fantasy top 50 every single week. I, by contrast, am in the top 50 like for the first 2 weeks a book is out, right? Which is great. Most writers don't even get that far. But I am not a New York Times bestseller is what I'm trying to say. So they've made a calculation and they've decided that what they're going to do is they're going to put the books in trade paperback because that is the format that they can make the most money on for the least money, which is simply good business. And it is also sort of a compromise in terms of quality between the more expensive hardcovers and the very, very cheap and consumer-friendly mass markets. So that is Daw's plan. We're going to do trade paperbacks going forward. I hope this is good news for most of you. For those of you for whom it is not good news, I apologize. But I would say that if you would like to try and get the books, reprinted, what you can do is write the publisher a nice email and say, hey, I'm a big fan of these books. I would like you to consider maybe doing a hardcover. If they get a few hundred of those emails, maybe they'll change their mind. But I wouldn't hold my breath too long, right? Because they've made it pretty clear that this is their plan. But the point is there's very little I can do. And it is somewhat heartbreaking for me as someone who wants to make sure that all of my customers are happy to have to tell you all that there is nothing I can do and that the answer is no, right? This is the old Disney customer service rule, never tell your customers no. But there isn't really anything I can do right now in January of 2023 to help you all out. Now, I will say, if you are one of those people tempted to spend $300, $350 in some cases on a first edition hardcover of Empire of Silence, look, if that's what you want to do, that's cool, but you do not have to do that. If you're willing to wait about another year, everybody knows I've been working with Anderida Books on collector's editions of the series. We've done some of my novellas now, some of my short stories. We're going to work on the third short story novella combo collection, which will be the Lorien novella with the batch of stories that are going to be Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3. But once we finish that, which will be later this year, we will be getting into Empire of Silence because our plan is, publishers permitting, to do special editions of the entire series things have been going so well over on the Anderida Books front that our plan basically is to print 1,000 copies of a special edition of Empire of Silence. So, like I say, if you're willing to wait a little bit for that, 1,000 copies is not going to solve everybody's woes. It seems like, as the series continues to get bigger and bigger, people just want, the hardcover more and more. So this is a good problem to have. But 1,000 copies will go a long way. And those of you, who listen to the channel regularly and have made it 13, however many minutes into this video, it's 13 minutes in recording, but of course I'm going to have to cut some of it out because I've had some bad takes in here. But you've made it 10 minutes into the video, let's say, will be rewarded with this knowledge, and you will know to go sign up for the anderitabooks.co.uk newsletter so that you can be kept up to date on how things are rolling with that project, because when they do go up for sale, it'll be you, the attentive, the careful reader, the dedicated reader who gets the memo first. So, do go do that and be patient, because we are working on some solutions here for you. Because believe me, if it were up to me, if I had a genie, I would just, want all of the books to be in stock all the time so that anybody who wanted to buy one could buy one. Unfortunately, that is not the nature of the beast. That is not how publishing works. And so, I appreciate the show of zeal from all of you, but there isn't anything I can do to fix the problem immediately. So, maybe, like I say, write a nice letter to Doll Books, asking if they would do a reprint. The answer is probably no, but it couldn't help to hear from a couple hundred of you. But in the meantime, simply bide your time, because there are solutions in the works. We are working on this whole thing with Anderida Books. So, do just be a little patient and we can get you something. And the new cover is going to be, pretty awesome. We're going to do a little bit of a different take, but it'll still be Kieran, so we can keep the Sun Eater feel all the way through. So that is something to look forward to. As I mentioned in my sort of summary for the year, this is a project we're getting into, but I don't want you all to lose hope. So, or for that matter, to spend, all of your lunch money on very expensive used copies of my work. Maybe just wait a little while, and there'll be some good news for you down the line. So that about does it for now. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I figured it was best to sort of just come out and make another video here. Hopefully that will answer more people's questions than me answering the same question in comments over and over and over again. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay well.